Welcome back to RGR Football. This is our weekly check-in. If you're new around here, make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss any of the information that we are going to throw at you, and there's probably going to be a lot. Wow. Also, make sure that you check out the Monday night streams because that is a pure Q&A for the fans with us giving you our inside information or at least what we think. This is Dan Harms, my partner in crime on these. How are you, bud?
Oh, I'm settling into single dad life for the next 4 months. It's been an eventful 3 days, so I'm looking forward to the conclusion of my 4 months, as it would seem. But I'm doing okay. Talking some football will definitely ease my mind.
And if she wakes up, she wakes up. It'll be what it is. If you got the little check marks going on the calendar every day Mama's gone.
Yeah, I got that going on my phone. I'm just like counting down the days.
Oh. Folks, we are going to talk football because, babies need attention, and you never know when that's going to spark up. But make sure you get subbed right now. Hit the like button. Hit the bell notification so you see the next one. A lot going on over the weekend. They did some media, and we heard a little bit from more of the players. I specifically was really excited to see that they put Legeria Snead up there, a rookie that I have been talking to you guys for quite a while about, and that I think he's going to have a role to play here, especially when we found out last week from Cheifs Ward that the Chiefs are expecting at least a 4-game suspension, at least Cheifs is. So he's looking at being CB1. I got to think that slides Fenton out to CB2 on the outside. And then it's either Matthew or I think Snead possibly coming down to play inside that nickel. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that they're going to want to keep Matthew as fluid as possible since he's going to be the only safety back there. Thornhill, we don't know what's going to happen yet. He's still on that PUP list, and they're going to take that as it goes. And that could push Armani Watts up deep, which I think could pass for the first 4 games of the season. I was happy with him in 2018 when he showed some flashes there. So they're going to probably still keep it kind of fluid like they did in the playoffs. They got, Sorensen. Now they'll have Snead. They'll have Fenton who can move around and play in the slot last year. So they're going to find ways to facilitate that slot and deep safety role any way they can. And I definitely think that Snead is a guy that you can play just about anywhere in the secondary and get away with.
Yeah, I like that DB designation myself.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a lot better for this point when you have injuries and suspensions and stuff like that you have to deal with. You got guys that are versatile, and that it lends itself easier for Spags being able to plug and play and still get away with some stuff here and there.
Yeah, and I think that's what he wants to do. He wants to play around, right? Throw some looks that you can get some different changes out of, and I think that's going to pay off for them big this coming season. But anything stand out to you about what the guys had to say this weekend?
Yeah, we saw yesterday the race between Nicole Hardman and Tyreek Hill. And for those of you that didn't watch it, you probably should. And I get that the angle's not great, but Tyreek Hill was pulling away from a 4-3 guy. He was pulling away at the end, and they slowed up. That should really give you an idea of how fast he is. Yeah. And, talking about the receivers, I'm currently working on a wide receiver projection over Arrowhead, guys, and I'm going to have it for everybody this week. So make sure you head out over there and check that out. But people have talked about Nicole Hardman getting a huge bump in volume in terms of going from year 1 to year 2. But Sammy Watkins is still the incumbent number 2 receiver on this team. And he's now talking about staying in Kansas City and how that affects, he doesn't need the money and that kind of thing. So what do you think is going to happen with Sammy Watkins this year with his deal being incentive laden and also in a contract year?
Well, it's great that you brought that up because that's exactly what I think is driving it all. And I like a hungry Sammy myself. So, but in terms of how many targets that converts to McColl, that's a little bit different. And I'm sorry, folks, I always pronounce it Mecole. I'm all over the place because so are all the Chiefs. I think Rick Burkholder calls him me. I don't know what he likes to be called. McColl, if you're out there, please let me know.
It would be useful.
Yeah, right. It would help. But Sammy, the fact that, yes, he's made a couple of contracts and he's in pretty good health financially, I'm sure. But the fact that selling it back so that you can get back onto this roster, knowing that you have to eventually give up targets to Nicole Hardman, I think this is going to be great for him because he needs to push. He needs to make sure that he maintains his body, which I think he did better last year than we've ever seen him do, but there's still room for improvement there. So this is honestly the best case scenario for Patrick and Andy because these two guys are going to be going head to head to be the next guy behind Tyreek and Kelsey.
Yeah, and I think that you said it best when he's saying he's hungry. You know, he didn't make any two ends about him saying he wants to get the ball more. He didn't. He just kind of moved on from it in the press conference, which I think is fine. You don't have to address it if you don't want to. And then Andy Reid came out and addressed it and saying that he likes that too. And how about he's going to have opportunities to get the ball more. He had 90 targets last year, around 90 targets. And you look at the playoffs and you kind of separate the two from one another, and you can see that his production not only stepped up in terms of yards per reception, but yards per route run. It was higher than his actual yards per reception during the regular season.
Yeah.
So I really think that the chemistry between Sammy Watkins and Patrick Mahomes found themselves in the playoffs, and that's what I'm looking forward to for this next year. You've got a healthy Patrick Mahomes, you have a healthy Sammy Watkins, and they're both hungry, and I think that this could be a really, really good year for Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, I mean, especially like you said, it was at the tail end of the year, so you just got it rolling, and then you put it on a shelf for the whole offseason. You haven't been able to dust it off or do anything with it. And at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think that's good for him. It's good for Patrick. And honestly, I think it's good for Nicole, because when Sammy runs routes harder, when Sammy gets in and out of his breaks better, it pulls coverage to him. And between that and the other guy running between the hash marks and Travis Kelce, there's room. There's a lot of room, I think, for Nicole to make plays.
Man, I can't even – I'm just thinking about Nicole Hardman working on getting off of press, being able to play more outside in the slot, moving around. You can move around all four guys with, Kelce and Hill and Sammy Watkins and Hardman. You can just throw them out in any formation you want to and just say, good luck. Good luck.
Well, here's my favorite, because I've been toying with this. I have to say there's been a few nights where I'm just up late. I'm in bed by 1 a.m. no matter what, folks, I promise. But if it's 11, I'm editing something for you. But one of the things that really caught me off guard is I went back and I started looking at Clyde for last week. LSU at Clemson in particular, and how they started that game. The first two series where Clyde was split out most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the significant thing, especially when you think back to some of the crazier things they did last year, and you look at like Travis lining up in the backfield with Patrick out at wide receiver. You line up in that triangle formation, you got two backs and Travis Kelce, and then everybody splits out. All of a sudden, you're in a 5 wide receiver set, and Travis has to throw something, or maybe you can just pitch it to Patrick and they can do something. But there's so many options now that you can go from full spread to a full backfield with the same personnel group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems that defenses are going to have, is they can trot out the exact same players and they can run anything. They can run anything they want to. They could have Sammy Watkins be a wing. They could have him technically be a tight end and come out in that formation with Sammy on one side and Travis on the other side, and then split out. Clyde. It just the things. It's endless. They don't have. There's nothing they can't do. And then they've got multiple versatile tight ends on this squad with the addition of Ricky Seals-Jones. You got him and Travis Kelce. The ability that they have now in the two tight end sets that Andy Reid likes to run is definitely better than it was last year, and I think it's going to be better than we saw with Demetrius Harris, just because Seals-Jones has a better ability to catch the football.
Well, and he can get into the routes better. I mean, nothing against Demetrius. For being a basketball player, I felt like he made a good progression in Kansas City. But that's still a fish out of water trying to adapt to the game. And I agree with you. I think across the league we saw a little bit more of a surge in 2 tight end, 12 personnel formations. Yeah. Andy has liked that in the past. He's liked 13 before. Like, I really like that as well. I think that they have some guys. I'm a Yelder fan too. I think he could use some more snaps. But that really lends itself towards, like you said, starting these shifts are going to be earthquakes for these defenses that haven't been able to practice all off season.
Yeah, I don't envy their task at all. And so you guys don't have the conditioning is not going to be there week 1, and we're going to trot out. The Chiefs are going to trot out Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, and Nicole Hardman at your defense, and they're going to say you can't beat us deep. I mean, we're going to beat you deep. And if you do happen to get your corners out there, guess what? We're going to throw it to Travis Kelce over the middle. It just doesn't matter. And that's, unfortunately, one of the only positives for this offseason is that it's going to lend itself better to offenses early on. And with speed, it kills regularly. Now, it's going to just obliterate defenses.
Well, and as long as they don't pull any hamstrings, stop racing. I'm with Patrick. I think Patrick came out and said something. Just knock it off. We need you on the field, not in the practice facility. But it's interesting that you pull that up too, because I'm looking at it from the opposite view as well. Because what are teams going to try to do to stop them? Is they're going to try to hold the ball. They're going to try to put up as many points as they can. I think some teams are more apt to run the ball more. I think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in Cleveland are looking at 2 tight end sets all the time. They're going to run the ball, try to control it. I don't want to be in the AFC North right now. I think them and the Ravens is going to be an interesting matchup. But for this Chiefs defense, they're relying on 2 young guys in what will be Snead and definitely Willie Gay. Yeah. And you can see the transition there, because when Snead's a little bit nervous to run with the Chiefs receivers and he runs 4.38, that tells you something. His speed, Willie's speed, they both tested out at the top of their positions in the athletic matrix this draft cycle. That's important too, because as good as the roster is for a returning Super Bowl team, it's not perfect. And there are going to be those 2 guys that are young. Juan Thornhill will be back. I think he's making progression. Andy said that. And I've been telling you guys all offseason, don't expect Juan to walk back in and be 100%. But he will be back on the field. And so there's another young guy that's going to be out there. I think Colin Saunders is going to have a bigger role this year. Another young guy. So they have to rely on some of the youth and some of the athleticism there.
That's I think a lot has to do with the defense, the coordinators and all that stuff getting younger and getting more athletic with the way that they draft. And we saw that Brilliant Speaks, was that second round pick in 2017 or 2018 draft. And they're still counting on a lot from him because they don't want to give up on players. I agree with that, not wanting to give up on players. And we didn't get to see him in this defense last year. From what I've seen, what we've all gathered, he's dropped quite a bit of weight. And I did have a chance to kind of speak to the trainer that worked with Brilliant Speaks, and he just said that the Chiefs are going to be really happy with the way he looks. So not being able to see that in person, obviously with training camp the way that it is, I think that it's hopefully positive, but getting a little bit quicker and more athletic for a guy who might be playing inside at 3 tech on pass rushing downs on defensive end is important. But getting all that athleticism injected into this defense is something that we haven't seen a lot of in the past. It was, Derek Johnson doing it all himself without much help outside of that. So definitely getting, younger, and especially the linebacker position. They haven't had great athletic linebackers since Derek Johnson, and Willie Gay hopefully will step in and do that. But, like you said, they're counting on a lot of young guys, and I think that there's room for some of these undrafted free agents to come in and play early, especially with Rashad Breeland missing time and Thornhill missing time. And who do you think's got the best shot to do that?
And that's a great one. I agree with you. I think Armani should walk into that free safety role while Juan's out and let Snead come along. Yeah. They listed Snead at corner. Obviously, he played mostly corner in college. Only the last season was he at safety. But that shows enough versatility that they don't have to designate him. They can let him roam a little bit. He's got the length to play outside, but I know that he's got quickness inside too. So I think you may see him drift down and let Armani and Tyron play the safety spots. Let him get a little nickel action, see what happens. But the Chiefs love Dan Sorensen too, so I could see them flipping that and just keeping the rookie on the sideline for now. But when it comes to corner, that's when it's more up in the air for me. And I think you like Fenton better outside. I like him better outside. Yeah. But there's still holes there. And so the guy for me in the UDFA group that I'm still leaning on is Legeria Hill, because he attacks the ball. That's the one thing that this secondary, even as good as they were down the stretch, they were not able to do, is they did not take the ball away enough. And Tyron Matthew will tell you that himself. So I'm looking for him as a dark horse to not only make the roster, but maybe get some time.
Yeah, and I am a Michigan fan. That was just because there might not be a college football season doesn't mean I'm no longer a fan. Right. Fingers crossed. So I've seen Legeria Hill through his career at Michigan, and he's just always around the football. That's something you can't teach, and I do think that's definitely an area that would help him make this roster if that were going to be the case. And I think this defense is going to have some issues like they did at the beginning of the season last year. All the defenses are going to. You got to figure out, what works, what doesn't work, how everyone's going to get their conditioning under their belt. And by week 4, week 5, into October, we're definitely going to see them mold into what they are. I personally like Taco Charlton outside on matching with Frank Clark. I've seen some things about him not even making the roster, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So it's going to be fun to watch the defensive line. And, Frank Clark saying that him and Chris Jones have the chances to be some of the best defensive line in like teammates in the NFL history or something like that. That's what I like to hear from, teammates, and bringing back Jones to match him with Clark, and you get some more pressure from the outside from either Taco Charlton or a healthy Alex Okafor is really going to help alleviate some of the pressure on that secondary.
You're absolutely right. And honestly, I kind of see it as a situational thing, because the Chiefs are still going to ask one of their defensive ends to drop on occasion.
Yeah.
The only one that I've seen do that significantly well is Okafor. So I still feel like he's probably the first down starter. But when it comes to pass rush situations specifically, I expect Taco to be that first guy off the bench at end. And I agree with you about Frank. Frank's got the kind of edge that I like. Like he's not seeking the microphone all the time. He's got great lines when he gets there, but he's not looking for it. And when he says things like that, I think about how many guys have not had that kind of duo? How many guys did things by themselves for the longest time? Bruce, Reggie White. You can name a number of guys that didn't have the support of another superstar. We're talking about Dent and Hampton. We're talking about Neil and Derek. There's not that many comparisons. I'm really excited to see what those two come up with, not only when they're playing together, but when they move Chris out to the end on the other side and they're pinching. That's what I want to see.
Oh, man. I want to see Taco Charlton, K-Pass, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark. Good. I don't think you could stop that four. I don't. They have the length, they have the athleticism, they've got speed, they have it all to get the job done up there. And I've seen John Leland of the Tampa Report or something like that. The Pewter Report was talking about his tackle break, his top 10 in tackles, and people are still on the whole left tackle is more important than right tackle. But what we're talking about right now with edge duos and you guys you can put on the outside, tackle is tackle. There is no left tackle is more important because the blind side than the right tackle. You need to be able to stop guys on both sides, and you have a guy in Eric Fisher who is not an elite tackle by any means, but he's an average to above average tackle. He definitely gets the job done. You pair him with the best right tackle in the NFL, Mitch Schwartz, and you have the ability to stop edge rushers. We've seen it in this division. They have really good duos, and Bradley Chubb with Von Miller and Denver, and Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa in LA. So they have the ability to do that, and when you have a rotation of guys that like Alex Okafor, possibly Breland Speaks, Taco Charlton, and all these guys, they can rush off the edge. It makes it so much easier to get to the quarterback, especially with teams that don't have an elite tackle or even one elite tackle, one good tackle like the Denver Broncos.
They have a good one?
No, they don't even have a good one.
Okay, that's. I thought maybe I missed something. All right, just checking.
No. It's just not good over there. So, it all comes full circle. And the ability to take all these guys and just plug them in here, plug them in there, and just screw with offensive lines is so much fun to think about.
Man, I agree with you. And you think back to what Spags did in New York, where he had all those guys with length. Yeah. They could press off of everything and play any position along that front. The guy that stands out to me is somebody that I know Coach Daly's really excited about, and so that makes me excited because I can't go find Central Michigan tape very well.
Yeah.
So Mike Dana lined up outside all the time at Central. Then he goes to Michigan, and then he goes inside. So again, another guy that could play at least 3 positions anywhere you want to line him up, and I'm excited to see what he has.
Yeah, I broke his film down from Central Michigan. I got 4 games, I think I got, and it was impressive. And I get that we're talking about Division II type-ish school at Central Michigan, but he had a lot of different weapons, and obviously that the strength that he has is kind of a thing at Michigan the last couple of years, at least, going all the way back to Frank Clark and his time there. They have these guys that don't have elite bend, but they have enough bend to get around the corner. But then if they can get a long arm on you or do anything with a bull rush, it's it's almost game over. They can push you right into the quarterback's lap. And Dana definitely has that strength, obviously being able to play and rush inside and also be a pretty good run defender on the inside from that position as well. So I liked him in the limited time that I got to see him at Michigan. It was obviously a rotational piece. They've still got great edge rushers in Kwity Paye and Aiden Hutchinson there. So that's just kind of what it is going to a Division I school like that. You're just going to find yourself in a rotation. But his ability to sit back and take on that role and let himself learn from it is definitely something that I like about his attitude going into being a Chief.
Yeah. Well, and seeing Daly fired up, that always makes me fired up. And the thing that I like overall is they're well prepared for the future. If this is a pendulum that we're seeing where teams are coming back to more of the run and coming back to 2 tight ends, that means that my favorite defense can come back and people can line up in the 46 more. And now you have all kinds of guys you can put in the Bs and just let everybody come after everybody. I love the chaos at the 46 Briggs. You can't go up against 3 wide receiver sets and spread. It just doesn't work. So if everybody's going to come back to running the ball inside, I'm happy as a clam.
Do you really think they're going to come back to it, or are they just going to kind of throw in a little bit more? I know you want them to.
I do. I don't know. I look at everything Cleveland's doing. I look at what the Ravens have done recently. Like, they want to run between the tackles more.
I get it, but you have unique situation in Baltimore.
Yeah.
They have a bona fide perfect system and the perfect quarterback for that system, because you're not going to get a Lamar Jackson all the time. Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson, these guys are few and far in between to run this kind of an offense, and it's just not going to be what you want it to be. And I'm sorry about that. But
think of the devastation they could provide. I'm just okay.
It's going to be no, you're fine. It's going to be defenses and offenses figuring out what they can do, and the Chiefs are actually set up to do that. Because they can have those 2-3 tight ends on the field if you put Sherman out there as a third tight end.
Don't even start with me. And now that Lovett's in Green Bay, that just makes me more angry. But I don't think the Chiefs have to do that. I think it's more about the other teams are considering doing that, trying to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. So I think it's about the defense being able to combat that, and that's what I'm excited about. And I just
that would be nice. Being able to stop the run.
I want to see a defense win for once. Yeah. How long has it been since we saw a dominant defense?
Probably that first or second year under Bob Sutton. They had a really good defense.
Good, yeah. I wouldn't even call them dominant, to tell you the truth. I mean, honestly, even in the league, there's been some that have been good. The Patriots have had a couple of good ones, but were they dominant? I don't know that you saw shutouts in 30-point wins in that kind. That's what I'm talking about. I want smash.
Sorry, but that
I know.
Fortunately, the rules are, quarterbacks are, offenses are. It's never gonna come back. No. And I'm sorry to tell you that. I really am.
Okay,
I know where your heart is, but it's not coming.
That's all right. I'll cry myself to sleep some other time. Before we digress any farther, folks, I think we'll wrap it at that, because otherwise I'm going to start talking about some really throwback stuff. Stuff Dan hasn't even seen on film since there's a big age gap there. But anyway, thanks for all your time tonight. I hope everything goes well with the little one.
Yeah, it's she's looking like she's about to fall asleep. We got some leg kicks here, but she's literally about to fall asleep.
Just the tail end. Folks, you should probably go get some sleep by the time you see this. It's probably nighttime when this releases. Thank you for all of your time. Make sure you like and sub and hit the bell. We will have more for you next week. As always, check out Arrowhead Guys for what Dan's doing in print. Check out the new podcast stream is coming. You might be able to find that by the time this is out. We'll see. iTunes takes a little bit a while to update, but that will just be an audio version of what you're getting here. So it will be everywhere that you can get it. We appreciate all of your time and being here, and we will check you next time.